So let's just quickly begin. I think let's go Partha and then Zach and Raj. Quick intro of your journey as a founder and what you guys are solving for.
Thanks, Shivang. Thanks for having us, and thanks everyone for being here. So I'm Partha. I'm one of the co-founders of Pints AI, and I think so. So we started about 3 years ago, and I think we went against the common wisdom about 2.5 years ago, where everyone was trying to build larger and larger models, and startups were trying to hook up to ChatGPT and build layers on top of it. We decided to build an entire ecosystem right from data all the way to writing agents on top, and we decided that we want to deploy it in the financial industry. So we work with banks, insurance companies, hedge funds, asset managers, and so on, where data privacy becomes front and center. So we deploy on-premise, we deploy in private cloud, and we deploy the entire stack, models included, which essentially does something which is super non-sexy. We're not solving the AGI problem at all. We're solving common reporting problems. And if you think about any large bank, like they generate thousands of reports in a month, maybe millions in some cases, that's where the Pints auto thought engine goes in and automates that entire layer.
Thank you. Zach? Oh yeah, cool. Okay, we'll skip it. Raj,
Okay. Firstly, thank you everyone for being here. So my name is Raj Karan. I am the Chief Product Officer of IO.net. So IO.net actually started off as a compute provider. So for the people who are using AI related tools, one major problem on AI is how do you scale the compute layer? And what we actually came across as an interesting problem. So when you look at the AWS and the GCPs of the world, there's a lot of hyperscalers out there, data centers out there who's sitting on inventory, which they cannot sell because they do not have the BD capacity for it. So what happens is you can get inventory very cheap if you know where to look. And IO ended up solving this problem by collating all of this as a marketplace and providing that to the end user who are the AI developers, the early stage startups who want to use this compute. They started at a very cheap cost, so you save like 60-70% of your bills on cloud. And eventually what we realized is a lot of the players who are using us, they were actually using us for AI infra. So we decided, let's build the AI developer tools also for them. So we have built our own model marketplace that hosts around 30 open source models, free access to anyone who wants to use it. We have our own retrieval engine, which is RAG. So we have deployed that as well. We would be launching our agentic builder in a week or so as well. But the whole premise here is we want to be the open source alternate to anyone who wants to build an AI. We want to be the decentralized alternate, if I have to also say that word here. Like if you want to look at something beyond AWS GCP, so you have a full enterprise grade solution out there. So that's what we're building.
Thank you. And I think the point here is about choice. Right? So how do you get access to more of these opportunities as early stage founder when you're going into hyperscalers, the ecosystem, and then you run out of credits and you hop into another hyperscaler? How do you build something utilizing such platforms? I think it's really incredible. I have a couple of common questions, and then we'll jump into specific questions for each of them as well. Right? And we'll have a Q&A, but if there's like a burning question that someone has, right, just raise your hand and that's all. Right. What's the biggest opportunity you see for generative AI technology that will drive real world impact in the next 2 years?
I think even less than 2 years. So when I was in college many years back, so I used to discuss with my friends on startup ideas, but either we lacked resources or we lacked the developer to develop that. I think today, technically, if you have a good idea, you can plug in multiple sets of AI tools and you can have a running product ready in less than 1 day. So if you know strongly what you want to build, you can easily develop that in less than 7 days, fully functional with payment rails. So what I see as the opportunity is there would be a lot of, I don't want to say $1 billion plus companies, but a lot of big companies created by very small teams. We are already seeing that on the tech side of things. But think about utilities, think of anything, like someone was recently pitching me like a Agoda version of an agent where you can book flights and they can look at your pattern on what flights you like, what seat you like, and they can book it in an automated way. So a lot of people will start solving this and add value to the real life customer. And the more it is seamless, more it is less visible, the better that product is. So I think now you have a lot of opportunity to build products like this in the next 2 years. Yeah.
Absolutely.
actually very similar. I think it's the one-person billion-dollar company.
Correct.
I think that will be on the rise. So it could be a fresh out of college kid, fresh out of college, or something like that. So I think that will be the new trend. So I think tens of companies with tens of thousands of people will be disrupted by very small team, very agile. And I think in the process they will use services like yours or mine or yours, to really tap onto enterprise grade services. But it could be a one-person team. So I think the Web3 world is very evident. So you think the setup is like hundreds of people, but behind is like just a dozen of people. So I think that's very scary for the incumbents.
I echo this, but if you're planning to build your one-person billion-dollar company, the opportunity that I see is not in the flashy, sexy stuff. I mean, most of the world is super boring. It's super boring. It is mundane. People are still stuck with old operational stuff, which has not changed forever. Like, we work with an insurance company who has over 1 billion pages, like billion documents, 1 billion, still yet to be digitized. They've been in operations for about 70 years. And their point is like, sure, you can sell me a GenAI agent, but if 80% of my documents are still lying in a warehouse somewhere, like what the heck is it going to help me for? What productivity am I going to get? So for builders, for founders out there, like it's super difficult. I don't deny that. Like working on these problems is, one, it's boring, it's really challenging, it's very difficult to go ahead and implement, and more difficult to convince a client to bet on you. But opportunities really exist in these places. Like, and just remember, like, I mean, we've gone down the path of trying to do sexy stuff, and then we realized that actually we are in Asia, and Asia is really not, a land of like too much capital. We're pragmatic people out here, and everyone's trying to solve real problems. So pick the most boring problem that you have seen in your workplace earlier. Try and solve that with AI. Like, that's a bigger opportunity than anything else that you would see.
I agree, and I can already see a couple of smiles trying to agree to that fact. So Partha, you talked about the unsexy boring part, right? Privacy becomes part of it, right? Regulated industries become part of it. You guys are solving for something using that, right? You're trying to build the first GenAI solution for finance. You're working in industries with partners which are highly regulated. What's your thought, again, on folks who are trying to build for it, or any learning that they can take from this experience?
So I think there's a lot of pragmatism that has really emerged in the industry about GenAI in the last 1 year. I think the first year and a half was flashy, right? It was fun. Like, everyone was happy that ChatGPT was writing poems, and we were all doing that. But when you bring, let's say, an AI into your organization and you expose it to data, that's not just any data. That's not just marketing data or social media data. That's data about your clients' portfolios. I mean, the industry that we work in, for example. It's your client's portfolio. There's their KYC documents, there's their social security cards, and so on and so forth, right? And regulators have their own rules around how this data is to be used in workflows. So the general view is that regulators are too difficult and they don't know, they're not keeping up with times. But honestly, like, the good companies and good startups try to work within the bounds of regulation, because regulation is there for a reason. It's at the end to protect us as individuals and consumers. So privacy has become really important. People are taking serious decisions in terms of which model, which cloud, to use, and which sort of technology in terms of, it could be as simple as redacting PII information before it hits an overseas sort of hosted AI model. On the other hand, what has happened for us, at least, our hypothesis that, over a period of time, two things will happen. Compute will get more efficient, which means that there are better chips that will come out, which can allow on-premise deployment, and models will get more efficient. And if you just see what's happened with Llama, right, like 7 billion Llama 2 years ago versus the kind of models that DeepSeek distilled on the 7 billion model, is a huge improvement. And these models can run actually on-premise. So a lot of work that we do is in orchestrating AI flows, where for the user in a bank doesn't have to worry about whether the data is being used, let's say, or sent overseas to be computed with ChatGPT or any of those, or whether it is locally done. So that orchestration layer is the one that we see as one of the game changers that has come in, at least in the regulated space, where you can choose multi-cloud, multi-AI sort of workflows in order to make life easier for the teams.
Thanks. And later we'll have a demo by someone who's going to be talking about how do they make data more secure and reliable to use. Just building on that, right? Zach, with the entire distributed AI experience, and again the Pundi AI playing the role of a data set marketplace, where how does it feed into the privacy element? How does it help companies and startup founders access this data to build more reliable and secure GenAI solutions?
Okay. I think there is a solution for different use cases, right? So I think for Web3, very decentralized nature of things, you want to address a certain kind of like clientele or data set, right? I mean, if you're talking about like military grade data, then you wouldn't want to put it on top of it, even though your public-private key is actually way more secure than giving it to scale AI. But perception-wise, you wouldn't want to put that very sensitive data on it. So based on our experience working with even medical companies, when we work with medical companies, we were initially a bit worried that the medical companies didn't want to give us data. But many medical companies that we have approached, the feedback was that they have so much data, generic data that doesn't tie to a certain individual, that is not processed and annotated. So I think privacy is secured, but also I think there's a lot of data set out there that is very useful, that is underutilized. So I think the decentralized nature of the platform, the person could essentially upload data set with public-private key encryption. So if no one touches it, it won't kind of like get decoded. Of course, the person decrypting it and analyzing, if the person were to take a photo and take a photo, that is really out of bound, right? There is really a lot of data, and the decentralized nature of the public-private key architecture makes it even more secure. And even for medical data, we realize that there's a huge demand that is being able to put onto the decentralized network for people to analyze. And in a way, it's actually even much more secure because you know who or which entity has decrypted it and analyzed it. So I think in a way, being open, being decentralized does not equate to being less private.
Yeah. So we talked about the application layer, right? Solutioning. We talked about the data set layer. It's helpful to understand from the compute aspect as well, right? How do you? I understand it's a decentralized, like the cloud platform. But how do you see AI companies utilizing this? Because you talked about you're going to be building AI agentic flows. There's already the intelligence there. There's already cloud. So it's not just compute. It's an end-to-end sort of solution offering that you guys are building towards, right?
So I typically start this by saying, like, if you guys have an idea how many companies are typically rejected by the AWS grant program or the NVIDIA grant program or the Google grant programs. So there's a very good set of builders out there who never make the cut. And even if they make the cut, then the cost of compute they get is so high. Like if you have, let's say, a bootstrap company, 50 to 60% of your cost will just go on compute in AI today. So what we are right now trying to do is we want to be in a place where, depending on your need and the type of machine requirements, you can take that from us in any country globally seamlessly in a self-serve manner. So what that means is, if you want to train a model, let's say the model is light, so you should not take the highest machine of NVIDIA which is out there. You can easily do it with a 4090 machine or a below machine, just for technical people out there. But what gets confused out there is when you are first time founder, your first time with the AI solution, you want the best. So this is where our sales team, our BD team actually will guide you in the process on what's right for you. And with this being at low cost, you have more money to spend on hiring the right developers, getting the right intel on the markets where you want to enter, even researching on the users which you want to enter. So that's one. Second part is with the rise of container service kind of products, you can actually have a product live at your site where the compute scales as you go. So what that means is, let's say you started with one device, and if you have demand for more, so the container can keep on expanding based on the demand which you have. You get billed per hour, per day, per week. We have flexibility on all of those levels, which typically is not given by the big players out there. They will minimum ask you for a 3-month contract, 6-month contract, or even 1-year contract. So I think with these things in place, and also the grant which we are going to launch today, so we plan to actually target a lot of AI developers who actually want to build something and do not want to see this as a cost coming to them. And then the major aspect which you will never get from a big player is location as well. So if you're, for example, building for, let's say, users in Sri Lanka, no Google or AWS will give you a machine in Sri Lanka, but a marketplace can easily find a machine for you in Sri Lanka, which will have low latency, high throughput, which can help you target the users in Sri Lanka. So we have those kind of flexibilities. And whatever we build as a code, I think along with the privacy element which has been mentioned, we have a whole transparency. So all our GitHub is completely open. You can go through it, you can go through our code, you can go through all our solutions, talk to the tech person involved in that. So this makes it very customized and a good hand-holding for people who are trying to do things with AI. So that's what we provide. Yeah.
Thanks, Raj. So you basically answered my next question also, which was about what are the hurdles right now, right, that people face in terms of this compute capacity. Obviously, as competing with hyperscalers, but is there like a magic sauce, or is it just a matter of looking at it from a business standpoint that, hey, this is something that we can do, but no one thought about it?
So there's one magic sauce in this, and essentially my background is from Uber, so I'll use that as an example. So typically Uber or Grab, a company like this, what are they doing technically? They're connecting two strangers. So one is driving the car, another is sitting in the car, and both are assuming Uber will take care of the safety for that person. So there's a lot of things that go into the backdrop to ensure this experience is not impacted. So you have to check whether this person is of the right background. You have to check both of the people are of the right identity. Now go into a decentralized compute network. So if I'm giving you a machine which has a particular spec, I have to check that machine whether it has that spec. If I am operating in 120 countries, I cannot send one employee to each of these machines to check. So what we actually build is we have built our own in-house applications that are downloaded on all the machines in our network to test the RAM, to test the VPN, to test the network capacity of all of those machines, even storage also. So if you're training a model, if I sell you a very big machine, but let's say the machine only has half a GB of storage, your model will never train on that. Your machine will keep showing errors to you. So we test all of this. So we qualify the machines on our network. And once we've qualified them, so we are 100% sure of the enterprise ability of that, we make all the suppliers sign a legal SLA as well to ensure 99.99% uptime, very similar to what AWS and GCP have. That is when we are ready to go out to the enterprise of the world and say that we have same quality of supply. So I think this is where the secret sauce comes in. And yeah.
No, thank you for that. Next question I'll ask Zach, and this is basically based on your past background as well, right, and your experience. You've been both like successful in fintech and in AI as well. Fintech is big in Singapore, but I think globally as well, it's one of the most exciting spaces where there's a lot of disruption happening with AI. So how do you use those learnings with Pundi AI? Any thoughts for people who are building in that space? Because the financial services space is blowing up, and there are a lot of people even in the community who are trying to build something exciting, not just like like a stablecoin alternative, but like literally like trying to solve something.
Maybe I can offer a contrarian opinion. I don't know if that's the right word. I think in Singapore fintech or even globally, it's very regulated, right? There's a lot of hurdles. Like you want to do something, you need to get approval, which is the right thing. I think AI will also have a lot of regulatory walls that will come out. Maybe one way is to build it before the regulation comes out. I mean, if the regulation hasn't come out, basically you're not breaking any law, right? So I think for AI as well, I think the regulatory framework will come out eventually. So maybe one way is to build it fast enough and reach there before regulatory hurdles stand in the way. So founders mentality. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I can see there's a lot of conversation, right? Like with Singapore's the 2.0 nation strategy,
Yeah.
even with in the Europe, right? That there are things happening, right? France is now starting to take the lead with this bill, right? There are things happening across the globe which are, I think, pushing the governments and even like regulatory bodies to understand that this is real change, where you cannot stop it. So how do you, as you said, build the right safeguards which allow innovation to happen? I'll ask Partha a quick question on, again, you've been building these, right? You've built something proprietary as well as part of something that allows you to deploy AI on-prem. So what was the journey around that? Because for people who are trying to think that, okay, let me just use an API and let me use the hyperscaler's cloud, you guys did something completely drastically different. You want to share that story and maybe gives people ideas?
It's, I think we are foolhardy, to be honest. I mean, my team members here, GT is here, he's gone through the same journey with us. We honestly didn't know what we were doing. I'll be very honest. Like, I know it's a stupid thing for a founder to say, but that's the reality, and most founders will, after a few drinks, tell you the same thing. When we pick finance, right? Like we said, we want to build for the financial industry, and we knew a few things. We didn't want to really do something flashy. That part we were clear. Calvin, my co-founder, and I both we come from operator background. Like Calvin was a pilot to the Singapore Air Force for 14 years. I used to be in logistics, where we've handled like insane amount of data, parcels going around the world, like really boring operation stuff. And so we knew that is really the place where most inefficiencies are hidden. That's operations largely. And we also knew that when you look at the financial industry, which honestly had the highest ability to pay for AI, it was first off the ground, banks and insurance companies. We just wanted to be there. So our journey of like building a model, like I think we were probably one of the first or maybe one of the few companies in Asia, and I don't count China as a part of Asia when it comes to AI. That's a two-horse race between them and the Americans. But we were probably one of the first companies who actually pre-trained a small language model very frugally. We built our own servers. Like we ended up hacking together a server with 7 NVIDIA RTX 4090s that sits in our office right now for fine-tuning. Because we didn't want to pay, AWS like the fine-tuning the cost of GPUs. They're great partners, by the way. So. But the other side of it is, the other side of it was also because we wanted to test what we are actually talking. Like we're saying that we'll do on-premise. We wanted to have an on-premise box in order to sort of test everything. So it was difficult, but I think one thing that truly helped, and I think I would definitely say that is what we should all do as founders at all points of time. Keep an eye on the market. Like your customer is willing to pay. Build that honestly. Like have a general direction. Like you can't keep wavering around whatever you feel like. Don't build for the venture capital industry. I mean, again, if there are any VCs, I don't mean any disrespect, but if you're building for the VCs, it's a wrong start. It's definitely a wrong start. Someone else will do a better job of communicating a more flashy and a sexier product. But if you're building for the clients, like your customers, and if the customers say, this is great, can you do this extra stuff? Take that very, very seriously. Like that's market research, which is backed by real dollars that pays for your company. So that's, I think, the only way to build in the B2B space. B2C is very different. I think it's completely different ballgame. But if you guys are targeting B2B, any B2B, doesn't matter. Like if your customer is a business, listen to the customers, engage with the customers, hound them for coffee chats, like test your product, like ask them questions till they either sign on a pricing sheet or they ask you to stop calling. So that's honestly the only way to build. That's how we did it.
I'll ask one common question to all three of you, and then we'll open up the floor for any questions that you might have. Right. So, Partha, from a founder who's been building, like privacy-first AI applications, where do you see generative AI as a technology being a disruptor for the future? Right. What's your thought for people who are building in this space?
So I'm going to use someone else's reference. I was on a panel a couple of weeks ago at the La French Tech forum, the AI forum, and one of the co-panelists actually said that most of the world, which is global south, doesn't live in high compute and high capital sort of environment. So there is a ton of inefficiencies that happen in countries like India, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Nepal, all these places, and no one's talking about that. No one's looking at that, right? So the opportunity really lies either if you do something really crazy, like build your own AGI if you have the capital. But other than preaching about AGI and preaching about agents, and again, I'm not dissing anything. Like it's all great, but what are the agents really solving? Like, can your agent solve a problem for a non-governmental organization in Bangladesh? Can your agent solve a problem of filing regulatory reports every month, which can run into 400 pages in some cases for large companies, with accuracy, with low hallucination? That's essentially the part that we are trying to, that I think we should all try to solve. Because the sort of the creamy layer of the business world, right? Like that's 20%. It's like an iceberg. The remaining 80% is really messy, it's really chaotic, and it's not at all fun. Believe me, it's not fun. I really think that is where the next 2-3 years of opportunity is going to lie. Like organizing that unorganized part, which e-commerce has done, Uber has done, everyone's done it. But when it comes to AI, we just want to do the fun stuff. I think organizing the unorganized part of AI is like trying to digitize 1 billion documents and then putting an AI workflow.
So find the most boring job on the planet and go fix it with AI, right?
I don't think anyone came here to hear that.
No, but that definitely is true because that's where I think most of the operational and the physical work also goes. Zach, from a standpoint of like building a data set marketplace for people, how do you see startup founders or builders, even companies who are looking for such data sets to pre-train their models to make it easier for them to build GenAI applications? What's your thought? Which couple of industries or use cases you feel are going to be disrupted?
I think from a general generative AI perspective, as a founder or a startup, I think what the founders can do is actually to try to understand from the internal setup of the team, what are the things that can be automated from a Gen AI's perspective. A lot of things will be disrupted, and many people will be redundant, unfortunately. But I think to set your team or your project to be competitive from the get-go, I think you have to really embrace generative AI or AI in general. So take for example, maybe I don't have to buy all the AI chips that I want. Maybe I just want to use IO.NET for couple of hours, really save on the cost. So I think that is really very critical. And as for what kind of data sets is useful and what kind of people will use our Pundi AI data platform, I think it's really what we set up to do is for any kind of people to use it. And we are surprised that even medical companies, financial data companies want to use our data. So we started off as wanting to service Web3 industry, right? AI agents, but we are very surprised that even the market in general wants to use it. So I think that is the niche that we have found. So very happy about that. Yeah.
Coming to compute, how do you see GenAI application builders use this opportunity to create more, I would say, innovative products? Things not just like a GPT wrapper, but like move beyond, right? So there's GenAI, there's agentic AI, but what else do you see?
So I think one major thing which we have to start thinking about is we have to stop on the model-based side of things. So the whole thing around ChatGPT coming up with a new model, DeepSeek coming up with a new model, it has become a race of sorts, like you said, 2 horses against each other. Now we are at a stage where we have to start working on the utility aspects of what all of these models can achieve. And there's no one size fits all. Like everyone does not need to use DeepSeek, for example. So some other things can be done by the Genmo model as well, which is a very low storage model that can be hosted on most of the iPhones as well. So we have to find that tailor-made solution for the use case which we are looking at. And I think one of the panelists brought up markets like India and Bangladesh. I think we do not see the impact this will have with the new age people coming out of colleges now. So India typically produces close to 1 million plus engineers on a yearly basis. There is a whole aspect here which is to train such people to be AI ready as well. So how do you use cheap compute to train them in the colleges? How do you allow them to make, let's say, their BTech or bachelor's or master's thesis on AI in a very low cost manner? Like everyone is exposed. You can think of the kids being exposed to AI, but what about the people graduating? How do you make them trained enough to use compute, to use AI, and to use that in a self-sufficient way? Because that eventually will become a very important tool for them to find jobs, to do jobs, and all of those aspects. So I think that's a good place also to invest on these things.
I think the job opportunity market, right? It's not just like, again, yes, some jobs will be displaced, but I think it creates opportunities for a lot of new things to happen. But we have to be comfortable using AI. We have to be comfortable building AI. With that, I'll open up to the floor. Any questions for the panelists? Yes, of course. The fastest thing this first.
Yeah, hello. I'm asking this question starting in 2023 for the AI years. Yeah, this is great about all the developments and actual thanks for the presentation. The question about the ROI, the return of investments in all the agentic, or there's a variety of AI technologies, because the times are changing. What do you see the most ROI now? Because it's easy to spend like a 100 and earn 10 using AI, but where's in the business perspective the most ROI of AI as you see in like different industries from your perspective?
I actually feel the biggest ROI is to make other companies AI ready. So as you were saying, so the top froth, which is the coolest thing which we are reading on social media, that will not make money. What will make money is getting, let's say, the Unilever of the world ready to use AI. So most of the money in the last 20-25 years has been made by consulting industries, if you think about it. Whether it is the financial crisis, whether it is investment strategies, everywhere there's at some level like a McKinsey, BCG, Bain, these kind of companies involved. So if you think about it technically, you can visualize the solutions you can build with AI. But who is taking it to the top managements of these companies, even startups for that matter, to integrate these solutions? So there's a whole revolution which will come in AI enabling current set of companies. So that's where I see the highest ROI. Yeah.
I think so it's a great question, honestly. Like the ROI part does come up in almost every discussion that we end up having. What we've seen so far, and again, I don't want to hazard a guess about what happens like 6 months or even a year later. But as of right now, the step one that we've seen where ROI gets delivered is in automating the most repeatable aspects of the organization. So we work with law firms, and like and one of the things that we keep hearing is a lot of work that the paralegal does is actually super mundane. Like it's essentially going into past court cases and trying to find precedents and so on and so forth. It's all contextual. If you automate that with AI, then the paralegal actually has much better time in writing better case briefs and having a better legal strategy, more discussions with the partners. Similarly, if you're an asset management company or a hedge fund, a lot of time is spent in terms of doing the very boring, repeatable stuff like, quarterly results come out, you start reading the quarterly results, go through the transcripts and try to figure out whether the company is aligned to your investment objectives. So a lot of these kind of repeatable stuff that happens in large companies, right? These are the places that I think the highest ROI is. And this doesn't need very, very large language models. This doesn't need very flashy stuff. It doesn't need really complex agents. It needs a well thought out architecture. It needs like data, engineering. It needs a layer of data privacy because a lot of it is internal consumption, only private confidential stuff. I see that being one of the best ROI cases that, at least as far as our limited exposure has seen in the financial industry.
If everything is equal, right, you don't have a particular liking for anything. I think maybe if you want to say AI is the gold mine, and if you really want to look at from ROI, maybe like try to do something, service the dig and the shovel, right? So if someone finds a gold mine, you want to sell the dig and the shovel to. So if there's really too many AI startups, right? So maybe all these AI startups need something. I remember during the tech boom, the mobile tech boom, there were so many mobile companies. It ended up the mobile advertising agency made the most money because all the mobile tech apps want to advertise. So maybe that's something to start, but very general opinion, yeah.
Hello. My question is to Partha specifically. You mentioned that you're working with banks and financial institutions. I just needed to gather some information on the sales side of things. It's so tough to get in touch with these institutions and begin that consulting and then implementation. How do you go about that exactly?
You get a lot of angels on your cap table. Honestly, like, I mean, so we try to shortcut our way into the industry by having a lot of angels. We don't have advisors. All of them are angels. Like, they put in money because they sort of see it with, our vision, what we're trying to solve, because they recognize this. I mean, one of the problems that most sort of operators, like, you go to the head of sales, head of revenue, chief marketing officer, any of those guys in a bank or an insurer, they'll tell you that the most difficult people to deal with are the head of compliance. Not for a wrong reason. Like, head of compliance's job is to actually make sure that the company's license doesn't get pulled out. So they say no. And a lot of times for, like, you mentioned earlier, there's like 10% of data which is secure, private, confidential for few eyes only. And because of that, 90% of data doesn't get into AI workflows. So we convinced a lot of people that this is what we are trying to build for, that that 10% of the data, which possibly is the most strategic data. We got a lot of angels who joined in from the industry. A lot of them ended up making some introductions across, like, to other companies that they have worked in the past. The introductions help, so that's step one. Right? That's your first sort of POC/whatever. I think the second step is partners. There is not a single B2B tech company which can sell directly to the clients. You look at any of them, whether it's Microsoft, Salesforce, any of them, they go through system integrators, consultants, deployment partners and whatnot. If you don't have partners, you're not going to solve anything with B2B. So don't try to sell yourself. Honestly, don't bother. We've stopped. Like, we go through partners now, most often. So, and we've learned the hard way, because we knocked every insurer's doors and, like, tried to get an appointment, and then we said, okay, if this SI is already, like, Accenture is already serving them, might as well go through Accenture. So change your sales strategy a little bit, go through the partners, build a partner network. If you are actually solving a problem that the end client wants, the partners will agree to work with you, for sure. Because that industry, that intermediate layer, doesn't have all the AI solutions readily available, right? That's the...
Right, thank you. In the interest of time, we'll wrap up the panel now, and we'll move on to the demos, right? These conversations, we're gonna have drinks and food, so please catch it after that. All right, thanks Partha, thanks Zach, thanks Raj.